Hey, Mistakes listeners, welcome back to another fun-filled episode. This would happen to be episode 21 of our great podcast. This week we looked at Disney's Lab Rats, and excited to say that Todd and I are recording this on the very week that most of our kids are going back to school, which means we're going to have a little bit more time for you guys. This episode was recorded on September 8, 2015. As you know, we have social media. We have a Twitter account, and you can go to Twitter at Parent Mistakes, and we also are located on Facebook at Parenting Mistakes. Hey, I'm so glad you guys tuned in, and sit back and enjoy the show. Hey, Todd, in our pre-show, you were basically saying that you don't actually remember any of your Labor Day weekend.
Well, not all of it.
Well, so are you saying that you don't remember, like, when you ate? What did you eat?
I'm pretty sure I had meals at regular times.
what did you eat on Saturday morning?
Oh, now I remember.
Yeah, what did you do? So this is
Oh,
Saturday.
Wait. Okay, so now it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
I should probably add this disclaimer, because when people say they don't remember stuff, they assume that people are doing some heavy drinking or something like that. And that's just not me.
Right.
I don't drink, like, ever.
Really?
Well, rarely.
Okay, you're compared to me, you're a drunk.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
It's rare. It
Right.
is rare. There's not a lot of stuff that I like.
Right.
Anyway.
Mike's. I'm assuming you like Mark's Hard Lemonade or something like that, right?
Mike's Hard Lemonade.
Yeah.
I will have a Mike's Hard Lemonade every once
This is
in a while.
all the soft people like that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The
Well,
teetotalers, they
we
just
can
like the Diet Coke, right?
We can debate between hard and soft people,
Yeah.
but anyway. Saturday I got up at 5:30 in the morning and I went and played basketball for a couple hours.
Oh, there you go.
And then I went to my nephew's soccer game. And then we went to his house, my brother and sister-in-law's house. And then we were leaving, and then I discovered that I'd lost my wallet.
Oh, no kidding.
So, yeah.
So it's no wonder you tried to forget it.
Well, I don't know if I tried to forget it, but, you know, you lose your wallet.
Did you actually lose it?
It has not reappeared.
What happens in California when you lose your wallet?
I imagine the same thing that happens in any state. You have to replace everything.
Well, in my state, there's a lot of good people that might return it to you.
Well, and perhaps they will return it to me, but just like parenting.
Oh, truly, what happens in parenting with a wallet?
Well,
What? No, now I'm lost.
we make decisions on a daily basis that we just don't know how they're going to turn out.
Ah, right.
So on the one hand, I could say, well, I'm gonna believe in the goodness of humanity to return my wallet, and I'm just going to wait a couple of days and hope that it appears in the mail.
Right.
But the problem is if it ended up in a trash can, or it's still sitting somewhere in a gutter or something, there isn't even a good person to return it.
Yes.
And in the meantime, I don't have credit cards and driver's license and medical insurance card and that kind of stuff.
Have you called that in yet? The credit card
pretty
thing?
much everything has been canceled and reordered.
There you go.
But
Yes.
I did have a nice family bonding activity, which we recommend highly. Family bonding activities, do we not?
I'm all over it.
Well, we ran a 5K this morning as a family.
Yeah.
Although it's always interesting, and we've talked about this actually with watching TV shows and movies, like it was an activity we did together, but we weren't together because we were running a 5K, and
Right.
we're not running in line holding hands or anything.
Right.
So we're all on different paces and that sort of thing. But it's good. It's still good to... We take a picture at the end and...
Okay, wait here. Are there actually families there that all hold hands in a line as they race?
Well, I didn't see any.
You've
but,
seen this?
I didn't see any, but you know,
So where does that image come up? Like, hey, we're a family together running in a line.
Okay, well, at least closer. There are parents that will say run at the same pace as their child.
Oh, right. Oh, so
So
your
they're-
objective is to beat your children.
My objective was to beat two of my children, my two older children who are both on the cross-country team.
Oh, gotcha.
So I thought this was my one chance. My daughter's a senior, my son's a freshman. I thought this would be my last chance to beat both of them.
And what do you mean your last chance?
Well, because my daughter is going to be graduating.
Or is it because you're getting a little bit older?
Well, that, and I'm assuming that by next year my son will be fast enough that he would pretty easily outrun me.
Yeah, knock your socks off. So what happened? Now I'm on the edge of my seat.
I did beat my daughter, but that's because she's battled shin splints the last 4 years, so she was having a bad day.
There you go.
And my son beat me by about 10 seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
He got you.
Yeah.
Like he must have been right in front of you.
Well, I caught up to him towards the end and just didn't have enough to overcome.
Oh my goodness. Have you tried some of those gels? You know what I'm talking about? Like you pop one of these gels and it actually gives you the electric light energy to go forward?
No, I don't do that sort of thing.
You know, I got some gels here. You should try them. They're pretty good.
No.
They taste awful, but they give you that little extra something that you need there at the end.
Yeah.
Especially for somebody that's in your condition.
My condition.
Right.
Pretty sure I could outrun you there.
Oh, I don't think so, buddy boy.
All right, shall we do an awkward transition to our show of today?
Well, let's go back to how you think you can beat me.
Oh.
I don't think so. Yes, awkward transition because...
Well, let's say we were a couple of rats in a maze. Do you think I could get through the maze?
Let's say perhaps we had some robotic implants or something,
there you go.
Right?
Yes.
Yes, which maybe in the future we will actually have, we'll be able to regrow legs or something.
Yes.
Right? So we are actually talking about lab rats.
Lab rats. Yes. Lab rats.
Disney's lab rats.
Disney's lab rats, which apparently is also known as Lab Rats Bionic Island.
Yep, sure. Okay. Same with, they live next door to the Mako people.
Yeah, that's right. Mermaids on one island.
That's right.
Bionic people on another.
Yeah. Oh, that would explain how that set works then, because I was kind of unclear as to where they were.
Yes.
Right. If you look at the set, it's kind of an apartment that is surrounded by ocean, which totally makes sense now.
Well, it's a house.
Okay.
But the lab's in the basement.
Yeah, I shouldn't say apartment. It looks like an apartment. It's a huge house, though, right? As we learn later on in the episode.
Yes. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay.
Sure.
So Lab Rats is on, it's on Disney XD.
Sure.
And also on Netflix. So this is about...
What, Netflix? That's us.
That's us. We like Netflix.
We're definitely watching that.
That's right.
Right.
So let's see. This is about a guy named Leo Dooley, a teenager. He has a mother, Tasha, who marries billionaire genius Donald Davenport.
That makes sense.
Yes. Which is... Yes. So stepdad thing. And then apparently... Leo discovers these 3 bionic superhumans in his basement when they move in.
Right.
Adam, Bree, and Chase.
Correct.
And so the show is based around them essentially kind of doing the high school thing, it looks like, except that these 3 have bionic superpowers.
Yeah, I to just help our audience who've actually listened to us for quite some time or just actually watched any Disney show in general, I would say this is a classic, as of right now, millennial Disney show with bionics.
Yes. And how they got these bionics, I'm sure, is explained earlier. We should also give a caveat to our listeners that the way we do this podcast is we watch one show. We often pick a random show in the middle of a season to sort of simulate what parents might deal with when they have children that pop the TV on or say, hey, I want to watch this show, and you don't have the opportunity necessarily to do extensive research, go back to the beginning, see where it came to.
Yep.
So we actually watched Season 3, Episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
And... tell me your initial reaction to this show and this episode and the wonderful message that may or may not have been there.
Well, it's funny. I always hate to pause right there because I'd have to say that with kind of a lot of the Disney shows, there's a lot to kind of take in initially just by doing some of this over-the-shoulder viewing. Like, where do I start? Because, again, there are two strong plots that are occurring with any given episode, any Disney episode, usually like character group A and character group B. And usually they kind of play off one another a little bit, but this actually seemed like two episodes inside of one, because you actually had one family group that was dealing with working a new job and then discovering that you kind of get some independence with your new job, and then your sibling decides to become a part of that new job, and suddenly you've lost your independence and everything falls apart for that subplot. The other subplot was the classic, I don't want to say classic, another Disney dynamic of parenting gone wrong. Mom is obviously the lead parent in this show. Mom has left for the weekend and given everybody responsibilities to clean the home, and they pursue to do everything they can not to do those things of responsibility. So those are the two things that are happening. Now, on parenting mistakes, we're always given this charge of, hey, what's the mistake here? What is it that I see in this episode that, as a parent, I might disagree with? And it's still hard not to just jump into the part where I disagree. And sometimes this show in particular, just really upfront that they are just being completely irresponsible with subplot B, which is they decide that they're going to do their chores, but to be able to do their chores, they're going to do whatever it takes not to do them by building a gigantic zip line fortress within their house, to basically do zip lines from the kitchen to the garage to the outside of the house to whatever bedroom you can imagine. And the special effect there is basically seeing all these bionic people zipping across the house, proceeding not to do any chore whatsoever. And when feeling compelled to do a chore, they say, oh, let's do the chore, but no, let's go back to zipline. And I will include their father in this entire dynamic, right?
Yes.
The father actually shows up for subplot B. So subplot B for me is just strictly comedy, right? And the tension there is, will they ever get their chores done? And the comedy is based off of that and just being goofy and highly irresponsible. Entertaining. And there's really nothing going on there except just strict entertainment. So subplot A involves Bree. And Bree basically gets the opportunity to take a job so that she can get away from her other brothers. Right? Like, I'm going to take this job because my brothers really bother me. And she takes the job, and her other brother shows up while she's on the job, and it's suddenly realized that he's actually more skilled at that job. And like another contrived moment, the hiring manager immediately hires this brother on, and sibling rivalry ensues at, Tech Mart? What is this
Yes.
store that they're in? I can't remember exactly what it is, a technology store. And so there's all sorts of rivalry going on there.
And we saw this almost exact same plot on Liv and Maddie when we reviewed that recently.
Okay, so here's where it's getting weird. So better handled on that show than on, say, this show. Right? Because this show deals with that dynamic with a lot of sarcasm. So basically, the plot point for subplot A is, they're actually not subplots. I can't tell. Can you know what the main plot was? They're just plots.
Really
they're just
one.
there, right?
It's sort of like The Weekend, where you're like, hey, what did we do for a couple of days? Well, we didn't fold laundry, and we went and worked at Tech Mart.
I worked at Tech Mart. And I was really annoyed with my brother. So obviously, there's a couple of things that were frustrating for me watching this episode, because we picked them randomly. These people have the potential to be superheroes, right? So there's a superhero dynamic. They actually have super suits. You see that at the beginning of the show. And I'm sure fans could get back to me and basically tell me, hey, there actually are super episodes, but this was not one of them. This was like, what do superheroes do on their off time? That's how it felt to me. So we're gonna throw a few special effects in for our superheroes, but they're not really acting like superheroes. They're just acting like normal teenagers with superhero powers. So I felt like, okay, I'm watching a superhero show where I feel like the superhero powers are being squandered. Like, you're just not emphasizing the fun part of what these characters could be. Instead, I'm just kind of getting classic Disney drama. Now, I bet you there are other episodes in which they are dealing with a supervillain of some sort, or a recurring character of some sort. But really, it's just teenagers with tech in their bodies. I'm sorry, I just didn't find it that interesting. It wasn't that compelling. It just felt like, here's just these two plots that are happening, and I found them mildly entertaining with all the same kind of Disney. Say it again, there are some Disney shows that rise above this, but there's a lot of sarcasm, a lot of snarkiness, a lot of teenaged, not a whole lot of angst, but you know what I'm talking about. I mean, how did you, when you see this, I'm sure I'm bouncing off your brain the same way. Like, I see what you're talking about, Dave, right?
Well, yet again, we've got always... We've talked about this before. The parental figures are always interesting on these types of shows. And it's not wholly unrealistic. It's not crazy for there to be one parent that's a little more of the disciplinarian, that hands out the lists of things to do, and then the other parent that's a little bit more of a, I don't know what we say, the fun parent, the softer parent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can tell. I know this with my kids over the years, that you can kind of tell which one they perceive to be the parent that is more open to giving permission for things.
Sure.
The caution with that is we, again, are seeing a role where Disney has said, we can't make even the fun parent too much of a parent. We've got to make them kind of a goofball buffoon to sort of fit in with the kids.
Right.
And so in this case, at least in this episode, we see the dad, who is really not an authority figure. And even the other plot where the store manager is not an authority figure. And that's, again, not unheard of. You could have a situation where a kid gets a job in a retail setting and the manager is, maybe a year older than them and that sort of thing. But, yeah, I think in watching this, it's almost like some of these shows, they pick some sort of plot scenario.
Right.
So they say, all right, let's take our standard pretty people with, perfect hair and perfect teeth and beautiful clothes, and instead of just putting them in high school, let's give them superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
So they give a few of them superpowers, and they're different types of powers, and then they sort of say to the audience, well, that's enough, right? That's enough for you guys to keep you sort of locked in. The fact that these things have superpowers, and wouldn't that be interesting, and wouldn't it be fun to have superpowers, and you never really know when the superpowers are going to come out. And in the meantime, we're going to fill in the rest of it with pretty dumb dialogue and plots that are just, they're kind of filler.
Yeah, what I'm really seeking out here in like a show like this is I'm really trying to find something I can ground myself on and say, oh yeah, there's the substance. Right. That's the substance, or I don't even want to say purpose, but the substance of the show. Something I can like, there's just something there to be had. Again, just minor tweaks. Like, let's say the dad does play with the kids, which I think is great. Like, he is playing with his children, which is awesome. But at some point he goes, you know what? We're running out of time. I love your mother. I respect your mother, and she's asked us to do these things, and I think we need to get them done. Versus, he just goes whole hog all the way to the end, to the point where she shows up unexpectedly, or on time in her case, and everybody's like, he's actually disciplined like his kids are.
Yes.
Right?
She
disciplines
he's added
him.
to the child list. He essentially becomes a child.
Yes.
Yes.
Which I'm like...
And then with the other plot, we have the standard sibling fight, but at the 21st minute of the episode, they agree to shake hands and get along and find peace. Sort of.
Right.
Sort of.
Right. No, again, I'm looking for some substance, some plot or something or a character just kind of rise above it. And again, I'll make that comparison to Liv and Maddie, where I felt like, yeah, there's some dynamics here where I'm like, yep, that's true to life. Instead of just, okay, so what they're trying to go with this episode is like, well, there's some unique things about having superpowers, which is cool, right? And it's strictly a comedy or haha fun time. And I'm like, well, even for me, even that falls flat, right? Like, this is aimed at kids to make them laugh and giggle, or I don't know what, right? Again, it'd be nice sometimes just to be 7 or 8 to kind of have that perspective to say, oh, I absolutely love this show. But I had to say, even as a 7 or 8-year-old, I'm not sure what you would grasp onto the show other than it's that filler that gets me to the next show.
Well, it felt a lot, and we're guilty of this too. It sort of felt like, I want to say, action shows that we watched back in the 80s, where there was going to be some display of high-tech wizardry at the beginning of the episode, and then there was going to be some contrived plot, and then at the end of the episode, there was going to be some other display of high-tech stuff to sort of go, wow, wasn't that neat, and then it ends.
Right.
And I sort of feel like this type of a show, they've got a gimmick. Their gimmick is their characters that have these powers, and they just sort of dangle that out there and say, all right, maybe we'll break this out this episode. In this episode, they kind of didn't. I mean, it was very brief. There was some plot like references to them doing missions of some sort, which we have to assume that they do in other missions or in other episodes. But as you said, for the most part, yeah, it was like, what do superheroes do? They do laundry. They go to their regular job on the weekend. Sometimes Clark Kent goes to the office and just files papers.
Yeah, this is what this episode felt like, what Clark Kent does on the days that he is actually not rescuing people or flirting with Lois Lane.
Right.
Okay, this is a Disney property. What would it look like if they actually did something based on The Incredibles, right? Which I go is a great family movie where I feel like every role is respected, and you actually have parents being parents that are trying to lead their kids to become superheroes.
Yes.
How hard can it be? I'm sorry, I don't want to be too hard on this show. I didn't find it offensive. In fact, if your kid is watching it,
as usual, yeah, it's Disney. It's clean.
It's strictly entertainment. I'm just not sure who's laughing.
I don't know if anybody's laughing. That's the thing.
It's supposed to be a 30-minute comedy, right? I'm like, okay. I mean, right? So again, I'm like, but you could take something like The Incredibles and really, really flesh out that show. You've got the brand. Do it.
Yes.
Make that type of show, and I guarantee you'd have both parents. Okay, I can't guarantee anything, right? Again, it's interesting that we just don't. Again, seeking out that substance. There's just, I wish there was more, and there's just not.
So I think the mistake here again is to assume that just because it is a kid show, just because it's on Disney Channel, therefore it's going to be, solid content. And as we've talked about, it's not awful. It's just kind of filler.
Yep.
It's kind of a one-trick pony, and as you said, I'm sure there's probably other plot devices that are developed in other aspects of the show, but in this particular episode we just didn't see it.
Yep. Well, Todd, you can follow us on Twitter, right?
I can, and I do.
And that's Twitter at parenting or parent
mistakes.
Yes,
parent mistakes, all one word. And Facebook. Go to our Facebook page, Parenting Mistakes, and give us some feedback, pro or con. and give us ideas for future episodes.
Oh, that would be great.
It would.
All right.
So until then,
Till then.
we're done being lab rats.
Huh, true story.